Hey everyone, welcome to Just in the Nick of Crime. We are doing a midday recap this week, which was something I didn't think I was going to be able to do, but as a lot of y'all know, I am traveling. We are on vacation, but I am still working for y'all because this is a very important trial and we need to stay up on it for sure. Now, that being said, we are going to Disney World today, and the park for certain resort guests are open till midnight. So we're going later, which gives me time to do this midday recap with you guys. And there's already been so much that has come out of today for midday. Now, here's what I will say. For my friends that are watching this on TikTok, do me a solid, tap that screen. Let's get it to 10,000. That helps get this pushed out to something free that you guys can do to help me out. The other thing I'm going to say is that in this episode, and I will say this again before we get to it, just in case, in this episode, we are going to have some photos that you guys have not seen before, things that are part of what the Homeland Security took during their raid. And there's also a few other stories that we're going to talk about that aren't necessarily part of the trial, but part of the whole Diddy saga that I feel like you guys need to kind of know about, and we'll knock those out at the very beginning. But that being said, no matter where you're watching this, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, please hit that follow button. If you missed yesterday's episode, it is already on YouTube. There is a Diddy playlist. I was really bad about putting all of these in a Diddy playlist, but now I've gotten much better about it, including the episode we're recording right now. So if you missed yesterday, you can go back and watch it. It was straight facts. It was late. I was tired, so I got through it as quickly as I possibly could in order just to give you guys that information, because I'm sure everyone wanted to go to bed at that point in time. Now, that being said, let's just kind of jump into this real quick. So, I'm going to pull up the full first picture here. All right. So in that picture, it is Diddy's mansion, which is for sale for $61,500,000. That is the mansion he has in Los Angeles' very prestigious Holmby Hills neighborhood. It has remained unsold for over 200 days since it was first listed in September of 2024. The property's prolonged time on the market is attributed to a combination of factors, including its high asking price and his ongoing legal issues. Let me tell you a little about the house. It is 17,000 square feet. It was purchased in 2014 by Diddy for $39 million. It is 10 bedrooms, 13 bathrooms with a 35-seat movie theater, a grotto pool, a recording studio, a spa facility, and a guest house. So if you are in the market for a really freaky home, this is it. And that's part of why it's not selling, because despite all of these luxurious amenities, the mansion has attracted little buyer interest. And real estate experts are saying that, number one, the asking price is absolutely ludicrous. But also the negative association with Combs' high-profile legal troubles are key deterrents. And even the findings during the raid, which I'm going to show you photos of some of the stuff they found during the raid, that has further stigmatized the property, making potential buyers kind of not really interested in it, especially with that price tag. In November 2024, a real estate investor named Stephen Belmont, known as Bo, he's known for acquiring properties with what we can call reputational baggage. He offered Diddy basically half of what he was asking for, which is $30 million, which is also less than what he paid for it back in 2014. Combs declined the offer, and the listing briefly disappeared in March 25 before reappearing with no price change, indicating its reluctance to negotiate. Now, as he remains in custody and as this trial continues to unfold, the estate's public image will continue to suffer, significantly impacting its marketability. Now, the next thing that I kind of want to talk about real quick is Meek Mill. He made a statement today on May 21st, 2025, which is when we're recording this. We're going live on this before recording, whatever. He publicly addressed his experience at Diddy parties. In fact, you know what? Let me see. Can I get this photo? Do I have a photo here for this? I do. Let me put this photo up here. I'm going to make myself small and it big. If you are on TikTok, you might want to jump over to YouTube and see this photo. It's pretty absurd. But anyways, Meek Mill publicly addressed his experiences at Diddy parties, describing the atmosphere of these gatherings having coke vibes, suggesting a pervasive presence of, usage. The characterization aligns with recent testimonies and evidence that's been presented in court, including accounts of Combs' erratic behavior while under the influence and the discovery of substances during the raid in his Miami home. Now, Meek also refuted claims that were made by rapper Loose Cannon, who alleged that Meek was kidnapped and held for a $50,000 ransom, which was supposedly paid by Rick Ross. Meek dismissed this story as just absolutely unequivocally false. Additionally, Meek clarified the context of this photo, this widely circular. Am I pointing in the right direction here? Yeah, I am. This photo, see, sometimes it mirrors it. Right here. Again, if you are on TikTok, you can't see it. Instagram and YouTube, you can. But this photo right here, where he is alongside Diddy in a matching outfit with a little person. He explained that the matching attire was completely coincidental, resulting from a last-minute purchase at a luxury retailer before Coachella, where he unexpectedly encountered Diddy wearing the same outfit. The little person in the photo is known as Midge Pack, has also stated that nothing inappropriate occurred at the event. It's a weird picture, guys. Not so much the one on the left, but the one on the right. No, I mean, whatever. You're into what you're into. But I'm just saying. I know, weird photo. Whatever, though. Whatever. Next thing I want to talk about before we get into the trial updates for today is there's a issue with a civil suit. And before you know what? I'm going to talk about the civil suit first, and then I'm going to tell you why it's not. Like, don't jump to conclusions on everything yet. So there was a $100 million lawsuit, if you guys remember right, a while ago, and that was filed by a Michigan inmate by the name of Derek Lee Cardello Smith. Okay, it's been exposed as being a fraudulent lawsuit with key evidence cited in the case, which was an R kit confirmed to have never existed. Basically, he lied about it. Now, confirmation to this was that the R kit was central to the claims that were made by this inmate. Cardello Smith filed the lawsuit in June of 24, alleging that Combs SA'd him at a 1997 1997 recording studio in Detroit. He claimed his R kit had been caught in the infamous backlog of untested SA kits, and that when it was finally processed in 2024 as part of the Detroit SA kit project, the results revealed a DNA match to Combs. But Maria Miller, who is the spokesperson for the prosecutor in this case, who has also been a national leader for clearing the R kit. Sorry, I'm saying this wrong to you guys. Maria Miller, who is the spokesperson for Kim Worthy. Kim Worthy has been the person who is a national leader in clearing the R kit backlog, said that there was no such kit available and never existed, that Derek Lee Cardello Smith did not have an R kit that was part of the Detroit SA kit project. We do not know of a SA kit being tested in 2024 related to him. Now, just a little bit of background on this one. The lawsuit resulted in a shocking $100 million default judgment against Combs. The reason that it was a default judgment back then was because Combs didn't show up to court, no attorneys. And so when the person you're suing doesn't show up to court, you automatically win. That's just kind of how that works. So it was a default judgment. The judge ruled in favor of Cardello Smith after Combs didn't respond to the suit. However, it later became clear that Combs never been served with the lawsuit and had no knowledge of it until the media reported the judgment. Soon after learning about the ruling, Combs retained a Michigan law firm, which swiftly challenged the judgment. The judge reversed the default ruling just days after issuing it. The lawsuit was then moved to a federal court, and then in January of this year, the case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning that it cannot be refiled. And despite that dismissal, Cardello Smith has been continuing to try to revive this case through various legal maneuvers, which have failed so far. Now, at the time of the original judgment, Mark Agnafilo issued a very sharp rebuke, saying that this man is a convicted felon and an S predator who has been sentenced to 14 counts of SA and kidnapping over the last 26 years. His resume now includes committing fraud on the court from prison, and that he basically unequivocally denied that Combs had ever met him and had no connection to him whatsoever. Now, just so you guys know, Derek Cardello Smith is serving a suspended sentence of up to 75 years for multiple convictions, including criminal conduct and kidnapping. This particular lawsuit, which is now dismissed, is one of dozens that he is facing, which involve allegations of misconduct going back to the 90s. Real quick on this, this is a guy who's a con man. I remember reporting on this when this happened. And this guy is known for being a con. He's always got some quick scheme going on, things like that. So I think that what he saw was everybody kind of coming in. He jumped on that bandwagon, came up with a plan, and it just didn't really work out for him. Now, here's what I will also say, because I know that there have been people out there saying, well, these people are just after money grabs, There's nothing that really happened here. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Yeah, are they after money grabs? 100%, because with a civil lawsuit, that is what it is. It's a grab for money or information. They don't need information from him, so they want money. They want to be compensated for what they went through. But let's just say 10% of the claims against him are true. Let's say that 90% of them filed against him are false. That's false. 10% are true. That is still a significant amount of people. Significant amount of people. So that being said, let's move on to, my point is he's a con man. But that being said, let's move on to the day's updates, getting into this stuff. And in a little bit, we're going to get through the Homeland Security. So the Homeland Security agent, Gerard Gannon, was back on the stand this morning, and he shared a lot of photos, which I'm not going to show while I'm talking about it, but I will go through those photos when we get to the end of that segment, so you guys can see it. So that gives anybody time. If you want to jump over, you can jump over to YouTube. But the judge took the bench at roughly 9 a.m. Diddy had not been brought into the courtroom yet, but the judge and juries were already present, preparing to resume proceedings. The court was expected to begin with additional testimony from Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent Gerard Gannon, who was in charge during the March 25th, 2024 raid on the Miami Beach house. The prosecutor stated that 2 more witnesses were expected after Gannon, including a former employee of Combs. They also confirmed, which I told you guys this last night, that rapper Kid Cudi, whose legal name is Scott Muscudi, would not be testifying on Wednesday, today, due to availability issues. However, he is expected to appear as early as tomorrow. Remember last week, Cassie testified that Combs was enraged when he learned that she had briefly dated Kid Cudi, and that ended the relationship with him after Combs assaulted her and threatened both her and him with violence. Shortly after the judge entered, Combs was brought into the courtroom. Agent Gannon returned to the stand, and they continued his direct examination. So that is where we are. And again, if you missed yesterday's update, it is on YouTube. You can go watch it and get caught up from yesterday. So basically, when he resumed his testimony, he testified that 80 to 90 agents were involved in the search because of the property's size and scope. 80 to 90 agents. When the search began, 6 people were inside the mansion, including a music producer, a property manager, and several facilities personnel. All were detained in handcuffs so agents could properly identify them. No weapons or contraband were found on those individuals. The jury also saw extensive photographs taken during the raid, which I will show you guys some of those now or in a minute. These included images of a closet filled with personal lubricant and baby oil. 25 bottles of baby oil and 31 bottles of lubricant, Astroglide specifically, were found. In the master bathroom, agents found a box labeled with a gold plate engraved with the name Puffy. Inside the box were capsules containing the active ingredient and psychedelic mushrooms, along with MDMA. Another item of note was a Gucci bag discovered in a closet. Agents said they found an assortment of pills, a white powdery substance, a crystal rock-like substance, a plastic straw, a $100 bill, and more. A stipulation read in court confirmed that the residue on the straw and the $100 bill tested positive for the white powdery stuff and ketamine. A bottle of eye drops, Visine, was also in the bag, tested positive for MDMA and ketamine. He put MDMA and ketamine in I guess, in his bottle of Visine. Didn't know that was a thing you could do till today, just so y'all know. But yeah, apparently they did that. Multiple tablets tested positive for MDMA, alprazolam, which is Xanax, basically, methamphetamine, and a combination of these substances. I was slipping somebody's drink. That's a good point. Among the more disturbing discoveries was a loaded .45 caliber handgun. It was found inside a suitcase loaded in a room Gannon referred to as the guard shack. The guest in the guest house on the property, he presented evidence bag containing bullets recovered from that firearm. Photos also showed red high-heeled shoes, intimate toys, and a negligee found in the master bedroom closet. Gannon testified that approximately 18 pairs of platform heels were found. 3 cell phones were also discovered inside a Balenciaga boot, and a 4th phone was discovered from a bedroom. The closet also contained parts for AR-15 semi-automatic rifles. Gannon confirmed under cross by Terry Garagos that the AR-15s were dismantled and unloaded when found. So let me stop here and let me show you guys some of the pictures. All right. So again, this is, if you are on Instagram or YouTube, stay where you are. If you want to see these photos, you're going to have to jump to YouTube. So we're just going to go through them. This is some of the baby oil they found. They have this one stacked that looks like in a bathtub or a sink. This is some of the pills and other stuff that they found. A little drawer with a lighter and some, that looks like it could be just Benadryl, and obviously lubricant. Some white powdery stuff that was found inside this pill bottle right here. Here is this. Every time you look at this, guys, there's something new in this photo of his like lingerie and boots and just other things going on, you know, there for him. Here's some of the firearms, the lowers. some bullets, some more of the pills. Here's just a basket full of lube and baby oil. Yeah, I like this one because it's got rope and it's got some toys right over. I can't show y'all where, but like over on this side of the screen here, he's got some stuff going on. Yeah, this is all stuff we haven't seen before yet, guys. These are all things that we hadn't seen yet. Here's some more just bins of baby oil and Astroglide. I mean, he was prepared for, a good old time. A good old time here. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff going on. I will try to put these in a Instagram later today, but just so y'all know, that's what was going on in a post. So moving on after that, best comment wins for those of y'all who are watching this in the replay. But jurors were also shown a striking image from the raid, which is a photograph of his bathroom mirror with handwritten messages scrawled across the glass. They were affirmations, which included, "You a legend, you're an icon, Puff Daddy, upward motion, and what do you want?" All capitals for want. It remains unclear whether Combs wrote these himself, but the messages appeared to be self-motivational affirmations displayed prominently in his private bathroom. Yeah. You an icon, Puff Daddy. Anyways, he's something. From here, and I think that this next part is really important for people to listen to because this is going to talk about, so they basically brought an expert witness. Her name is Dr. Dawn Hughes, and she's a clinical and forensic psychologist, board certified expert specializing in trauma and interpersonal violence. And she was called the prosecutor's 11th witness. The reason I think this is important is because her testimony gives a little bit of insight into why somebody might have stayed in this relationship. Because what I've discovered since covering this is that there's a lot of really privileged people out there. And I use the term privileged. I don't use it lightly, but the way that I'm saying it, and I don't mean this is a bad thing for them. There's a lot of people who assume that she could have left. She was just in it for the money. It was all these reasons that don't understand why somebody in an abusive situation stays. And I have sat here and I've countered that every chance that I get. And this is now an expert taking this. So, I'm not an expert by any means. All right. I'm not. So you can say, well, Justin doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And that's fine. Say that. That's fine. You cannot refute this. You cannot be somebody who is like Dr. Dawn Hughes and say, oh, she just stayed for this, unless you really are just an abuser yourself or you were privileged enough to have never been in that situation. All right. And I am fully in support of Cassie. Cassie didn't do the things that she did because she wanted to. She did the things that she had to do to survive. That's what it was. And that is, you will not get me. Somebody said, it sounds like you're taking your side. You're damn right I am, Anthony. If you have a problem with that, you are welcome to leave. Oh, I'm going to pin this. We're going to do this real quick. Anthony, let's get your stance real quick before I go further. I want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly before I go further and I jump down your throat on something. So before, I want to just clarify. Let's see what you have to say after that. I want to make sure before I jump on your throat that I'm not misreading what you're saying. Give him a second. What will happen is he will respond and give us what he was saying, or he will wuss out and leave. That's typically what happens, is the latter. Let's wait. We're going to give it a second, guys. He's gone. Of course he's gone. Of course he's gone. That's what happened. Anthony, what's his thing? Is his on TikTok username is Anthony C619. We're going to take a screenshot of that. We might do something with that comment later. And we might do something with that comment later. No, we don't block unless we have to, but we talk. So yeah, I am taking her side. And I'll tell you why. If nothing else, we've seen the bruises. We've seen the videos of him beating the crap out of her. There is zero excuse for that. And you know what's funny? Most of the time, it is men that are the ones who are making excuses for what was going on. That makes sense. She stayed in love with him, insisted that she had the freak offs too. Didn't say he was okay. He's here. Didn't say wasn't abused. Okay, I think you're saying he wasn't. Okay, okay. Well, then you know what, Anthony? I'm not going to pick on you. I see where you're coming at. You're kind of coming from a place of curious, I'm going to say, but let's talk about what the testimony from the expert witness said, because the thing is, as being a guy, My guess is you probably haven't been in an abusive relationship. People like that don't stay by choice. They stay when they have people following them or people beating them, or they're too afraid to leave. That's kind of what we're dealing with. So because you approach it in a good way, I'm not going to jump down your throat. But I'm just saying that's kind of what happens. You have a guy who sends goons after her, but we're going to talk a little bit more. I hope that you'll stay and listen to this. We're going to talk a little bit more about what this expert witness said, and I'm just going to get into it instead of, continuing this. So, now, she was officially recognized as an expert by Judge Subramanian. She's permitted to testify broadly on issues related to DV, SA, trauma, and how victims cope with abuse. However, per a prior ruling, she was not allowed to discuss the concept of coercive control or offer any opinion on the credibility of the alleged victims in this case. So she speaks at it from a generality. She disclosed that she had not interviewed any of the victims or witnesses and was testifying as a blind witness, meaning she had no direct knowledge of the individuals involved. She testified that she had only seen a few press articles and had not followed the case closely. She's being paid $600 per hour and $6,000 for her court appearance. She testified in numerous high-profile cases, including the 2022 trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Hold on a second. They strict my liability. It's not a big deal. She also served as an expert criminal witness in the criminal trials of Keith Raniere, the founder of I can never say XIVM, and R. Kelly. She's expected to testify in Harvey Weinstein's ongoing trials as well, which is taking place actually very close to where Diddy is. You have Diddy and Harvey Weinstein pretty close to each other. It's in a nearby courtroom. So let's talk about why victims stay in abusive relationships. This goes directly to you, Anthony. Hughes explained that victims often remain in abusive relationships for reasons rooted in psychological and emotional dependency. These include feelings of love, hope, and trauma bonding. A trauma bond forms when an abuser alternates between violence and kindness, which reinforces the victim's emotional attachment. Victims often want to return to the good version of their partner, the person that they initially fell in love with. Financial dependency can also be a major reason victims say abusers often control their partner's access to money, housing, and basic resources, making it extremely difficult to leave. How are you able to leave if you don't have access to those tangible resources? Noting that abusers often sabotage a victim's ability to live independently. Now, I'm going to pause there for a second. Let's talk about when he took her phone, he took her car, he cut her off, all of those things. So that's just part of it. SA presents another challenge to disclosure. Hughes described it as a very private harm that creates deep shame, humiliation, and degradation. They don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to think about it in their own brain. Victims are also commonly turned to substances like substances and alcohol to numb themselves before interactions with their abuser. Hughes said this is a preventative coping mechanism used to ward off anticipated or physical or emotional pain. These are all things that she has testified that she did. And this person said that she has not been following this case. And the reason that people like her don't follow these big cases is because oftentimes they are able to testify in this and bring their expertise. Somebody said they needed my sister to watch this. This is going to be on YouTube. You can show it to her. Now let's talk about memory and abuse and how trauma distorts recall. Hughes detailed how trauma affects memory, noting that while victims retain the core gist of traumatic events, including major sensory and emotional moments, peripheral details often fade. These are fragmented memories, but they can still be reliable. Abuse tends to be routine, which leads to victims to conflate similar instances. I know I got punched a bunch of times, but I can't tell you when that was, is a common sentiment. Cassie even said the same thing. Victims are more likely to recall specific instances of abuse when those moments are tied to significant life events like birthdays or holidays. Does this all sound familiar with what we've talked about? Anthony, I want you to guys keep that pin. I'm going to come back to what he said because I think that's a very good point, and I want to talk about what he said, not in a mean way. So, mods, keep that comment pinned for a minute because I'm almost done. You know what? Actually, I'll stop here. So the comment Anthony made, he said, I feel you trauma bonding. Someone knew all about this and didn't say anything for her. So you're sort of correct on that. They did. People did say things for her. Did he threaten to make them disappear? He said, where I come from, people go missing. He had people follow them. He told people that you were here to work, not judge the relationship. And they were so in fear of him that they would never wanted to speak up for her. He made it seem that, at least according to everybody that's talked so far, he made it seem for these people that if they spoke up, either they would disappear and nobody would believe him, and then they would end up getting hurt, or they were given bags of cash. So I'm not saying it's okay. It definitely was not okay. What went on for so long. I mean, it went on for over a decade. It's absolutely horrific. But yeah, people did try to say something. But the issue is when you have somebody like Sean Diddy Combs, somebody who's got endless wealth. I don't know if you feel the same way I do, Anthony. I've talked about this many times. I am convinced that he is responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur. You will not convince me otherwise. We talked about yesterday how they found, firearms with sawed-off serial numbers and things like that. So that's kind of what it's like. And so I appreciate us having a conversation. I'm glad I didn't jump to conclusions. I'm glad that you're willing to listen, because the issue is with things like this is there's a lot to it. Unfortunately, and Biggie, yes. Unfortunately, it's not black and white with these situations. You know what I'm saying? It's not black and white. There's always a lot of gray areas, and it's in every situation is a little bit different. But if you ever talk to anybody who who has been in an abusive situation, it usually takes, for the average person, about 7 to 10 times for them to finally leave. And that's the average person, not somebody that you're trying to leave who's got immense power and wealth. So, anyways, that's my point for that. Anyways. Going on, Dr. Hughes testified that victims typically develop coping strategies as the abuse escalates. These mechanisms are often aimed at de-escalation, such as curling into a ball or avoiding conflict, or may include active self-defense like hitting back, which is known as reactive abuse. Although this often leads to more severe injuries for the victim, think Gabby Petito. The most common coping mechanism, however, is trying to work things out with the abuser in the hope that the violence will stop, basically trying to negotiate. It often takes multiple attempts for a victim to leave an abusive relationship. Many leave, return, and then leave again. The abuse doesn't always stop when they leave. Sometimes it follows them. There was a story I have in my things to do where a guy had broken up with a woman. I mean, you hear this all the time, and then ended up unaliving her because he couldn't be with her. It can be a pattern that's really challenging. Disclosure of abuse is often delayed for months or years. Victims are far more likely to disclose abuse by a stranger than a partner. The closer the relationship to the perpetrator, the less likely you're going to be to disclose it. And from there, they broke for lunch. That's what we got, guys. That's what we got. Anthony, I appreciate the dialogue, for real, though. That being said, that's what I have today. They're falsely blamed in the way the abusers say that because they think they deserve it. So that's what we have for now. We're going to do an evening update. It will probably be very, very late. Very, very late. It'll be on, if you have to go to bed, it'll very likely be on YouTube the next morning. Sierra, I don't know which audio is going around that you're saying is legit. So I can tell you that I've not heard of any audio going around. So I can't comment on it. I've not heard of anything that's legit that's going around. Here's the thing, if it sounds absurd and you think it's absurd, then just Google it and check and see. And that's the best way I can tell you. But yeah, for anybody who came in late, anybody who wants to see the rest of this, these are on YouTube. For Instagram folks, it is on YouTube as well. For those of you who came in late, please make sure to hit that follow button on TikTok. Please make sure to hit that the subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure the notifications are on. And I will see you guys a little bit later. I don't think any Prince audio is real. Not that I've heard of. Not that I've heard, but I'll do. I feel like I'll do a couple of rumors before I head off. I'll say I've heard people ask me about Prince. I've not seen or heard anything that shows there's any audio of Prince and Diddy having any real dialogue. I will definitely take a look. The other thing that I heard a lot yesterday was, oh, well, they came up in court that Obama and Diddy had the same dealer. No, that's not true. Oh, Diddy took X shaped like former President Obama. They didn't have the same dealer. Sometimes we have to have, and I'm not saying this for the Prince thing. I don't know that much about the Prince thing, so I can't tell you what's being said on that. But for the Obama thing, sometimes we have to use common sense. They don't live in the same city. They don't live in the same state, right? Diddy's got a house in Miami. He's got a house in L.A. Obama was in Chicago. Then he was, I think, in Hawaii, and then Washington, D.C. at one point. Actually, he said he all loved Obama. That wasn't really shocked. Actually, he and Obama he disagreed with a lot of things that Obama did with the black community. So that's actually not entirely true either. So I'll try to look into the Prince audio and have you guys and answer if I can remember to do it tonight. But the point is that sometimes, definitely check it, because certain things like that, like if Obama, for example, Obama and Diddy had the same dealer, that would be news everywhere. You don't think that Donald Trump would have taken Truth Social already to capitalize off of that? He 100% would. 100% would have been like, we had crooked Obama in there doing this, and he had the same dealer as Diddy. There would have been some Truth Social post about that. There's no way he would have let that go. No way, because he doesn't like Obama. And so, anyways, that's one thing. And then the other thing for the Prince thing, I'll take a look. I haven't seen anything, but also I'm going to guess on the front end it's probably false. But I will take a look and see what I can find out for you guys and see kind of where this all originates from. That yeah, no, yeah. If he wants to say something, 50 Shades of Grace, you're not going to shut President Trump up. He's going to say what he's going to say, and you're not going to stop him. You're not going to stop him. He's a man who does what he wants to do. That's just it. Somebody said, isn't that Prince audio circulating AI? I've not heard it, but it could be. I'll take a look into it. And I'll let you guys know. Anyways, y'all have a great rest of the day. I'm going to Disney World. See you guys later.